We begin our show today with breaking news. Kawhi Leonard will not play in the upcoming Paris Olympics for Team USA. The Clippers forward will be replaced by Boston Celtics guard Derrick White. And in a statement released on Wednesday, USA Basketball implied that Leonard's decision was influenced by the Clippers and Team USA officials after observing training camp in Las Vegas over the past 3 days. So the statement read in part, quote, Kawhi has been ramping up for the Olympics over the last several weeks and had a few strong practices in Las Vegas. He felt ready to compete. However, he respects that USA Basketball and the Clippers determined it's in his best interest to spend the remainder of the summer preparing for the upcoming season, meaning the NBA season, rather than participating in the Olympic Games in Paris. So with that, Tim Bontemps is joining us from Las Vegas, where he's been embedded with the Olympic squad as they prepare for Paris rather. Tim, Kawhi said recently he'd been rehabbing his knee over the past 2 months, and he wasn't sure whether or not he'd be able to play up until about 2 weeks ago when his tune changed, and now it's changed again. So what happened here?
Well, Malika, I think as you laid out in that statement, I think this was a joint decision made by the Clippers and Team USA, and even Kawhi Leonard potentially himself with his situation with that knee coming off that playoff series against the Dallas Mavericks, where, as you remember, he was out there in games 2 and 3 of that series and looked bad enough at that point that the Clippers had to sit him down for the remainder of that first-round series against the Dallas Mavericks because they did not like the way Kawhi looked in that Game 3 when he didn't look like himself, frankly, at all. And over the past few days here in camp, obviously, Tyronn Lue, Clippers head coach, is one of Steve Kerr's assistants with Team USA. Lawrence Frank, the president of basketball operations, and Mark Hughes, another senior member of the Clippers front office, was on hand here in Los Angeles to watch Kawhi closely with Team USA. And he showed up with a big sleeve on that right leg. He had a bit of a limp when he walked in. And as you said, it was only a couple of weeks ago when Kawhi felt like he was going to be in a good enough shape to participate in these Paris Olympics. And that's why a month ago, our agent Wojnarowski reported that Derrick White was going to be the replacement for Kawhi Leonard if he was not able to go. So it's not exactly a shock that we've gotten to this point where, as Team USA is about to depart for Abu Dhabi on Thursday, that this is the moment when, if you're going to make a decision like this is the time you would make it. And clearly, after Kawhi Leonard gave it his best to try to be ready to play in the Paris Olympics, everybody got together and decided the right thing to do was to have him stay home, get ready for the Clippers going into their new season in their new arena, the Intuit Dome, this fall, and have Derrick White replace him on this Team USA roster.
Yeah, shock, I don't know, is what I felt seeing that this morning, Tim. Maybe a little bit of disappointment for Kawhi Leonard, knowing that he absolutely wants to be able to represent his country, and now this is the decision that has been made. You mentioned Derrick White, the replacement, of course, for Leonard here. What can you share about the process that he's now going through, needing to ramp up for Paris?
Yeah, Malika, I'd echo that just really quickly on Kawhi, too. We spent time around him this weekend, getting here, getting with Team USA, doing a bunch of media stuff. He seemed very excited. His teammates seemed excited about being around him. Several guys joked he's the guy who's the funniest guy on the team, which is not really what people think about with Kawhi. So it is a shame he's not able to play. But as for Derrick White, this obviously been a whirlwind several weeks for him. He just signed a massive extension a few days ago to remain with the Boston Celtics for the next several years. He obviously won an NBA title last summer. And this week, he's been in Parker, Colorado, his hometown, running his camp, his annual camp in the summer. And he was supposed to go to the ESPYs tomorrow in Los Angeles. And obviously, he will not be doing that now as he's getting ready to join Team USA in Abu Dhabi on the next portion of their journey through this 5-game exhibition schedule. He won't be with the team tonight here in Las Vegas, but as we saw during the playoffs and throughout this season with Boston, Derrick White, one of the best two-way guards in the NBA. He and Jrue Holiday both on the all-defensive team this year, and he will slot right into this group as an elite player on the defensive end, guy who could space the floor and play off the ball and hit threes. Really should fit in seamlessly with this group, replacing Kawhi Leonard. But as we said, obviously disappointing for Kawhi. He's not able to finish out this run and be part of this group going to the Paris Olympic Games in a few weeks.
Well, the ESPYs red carpet loss is the U.S. men's roster's gain. Tim Bontemps, thank you so very much. We're going to see you a little bit later in the show. I want to bring in Chiney Ogwumike, Zach Lowe into the conversation. This is disappointing. It's just a bummer here for Kawhi Leonard. Zach, what was your reaction to learning he would not be able to head to Paris with the Team USA here?
Disappointment, but certainly not surprise. And it just reinforces my confusion about the Clippers drawing a line in the sand in the 4th year with Paul George. Because it just seems unlikely at this point that you're ever going to get more than 60 whatever games out of Kawhi in a season, if that. And in the past, when that happened, you could lean on Paul George or Paul George and James Harden to keep your team afloat. Paul George is gone. James Harden is back. A host of role players are in Paul George's place. What happens now if and when Kawhi is out for 20 or 25 games? And by the way, you don't even control your own draft pick for the next several seasons because of the OKC trade that paired Paul George and Kawhi, and then the James Harden trade on top of that. I just will never really fully understand what the Clippers were doing, deciding, yeah, we'll pay you in the end what Kawhi got for 3 years, but that fourth year, no, and we're willing to risk going into mediocrity or worse in the meantime. I just never really understood it, and this just reinforces that. And on Kawhi, he's one of the best players of the last 15 or 20 years. You want him to play when he's a two-way force at his best. There's just nobody like him in the NBA, and I just wish we could see that guy consistently because he's one of my favorite players to watch.
I think the hardest thing to reconcile why this is a big bummer for Kawhi is that for a pro athlete, there are two things that you really want. You want to win a championship, and you also want to win an Olympic gold and represent your country. But one thing we have also realized, especially on the men's side, they are so talented that it's not necessarily a requirement for your legacy to win an Olympic gold. It is something that is icing on the cake, something that has separated a lot of legends. But I think there is a prioritization on him winning an NBA championship given the sacrifices and all the different ways that the circumstances have built themselves up to with the Clippers, the investment they made in him, the investment the Clippers have made overall in themselves. I think that's hard. And also, he's won championships before, but still the pressure is on him. And it's hard when you come off of a difficult season, ending the way you did, to go and expend yourself more, knowing that there's more to come, 82 more games, and then trying to fulfill those expectations. And it's a tough one.
Exactly. And I think we'd feel differently if he never went to join the Olympic roster at all, right? If he'd bowed out earlier and said, you know what, I think we're just going to focus on this, it just feels like it's adding insult to injury again here for the Clippers, for a guy who hasn't been able to finish the season. By finish the season, I mean be able to play through the playoffs since the bubble. And what happened in the NBA bubble? Well, he got 4 months off beforehand, essentially, to be able to rest his body so that he could gear up mid-season again, essentially, to be able to complete the season.
Yeah, and in fairness, he has won NBA championships in two different organizations, whether it's the Spurs or the Raptors, and he's trying to do so with the Clippers. But we do, as athletes, have recency bias. In the last few years, it's been hard because I think that's what people remember, the falling short, the not being available, and going to the Olympics probably would be great, but if it was detrimental to the overall goal of winning a championship with the Clippers, I think that's where the scrutiny comes.
Right, and as Zach said, opening up a new arena, all of those factors for the Clippers, it's just hard to feel good about that pursuit right now. Speaking of it, in the world of social media, it's always a little bit of it's risky business if you want to just send out a tweet or something before maybe checking around your surroundings. Ask Eric Bledsoe. You could be in a hair salon saying you don't want to be there, and then people make a whole big thing out of it. But it was rather curious that less than an hour after Mark Spears reported that Derrick White would be replacing Kawhi Leonard on Team USA, I'm not saying he might have been busy. He might have been doing something else.
Teammates, too.
Yeah, booked and busy. Jaylen Brown. This is what he posted. What do we call this? The pondering monocle emoji?
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like the Monopoly Man.
Yeah, there you go. There are 3 Celtics on the Olympic squad. None of them are the finals MVP. So, Chiney, do you think that Derrick White was the right choice to round out this roster?
I do think that availability is a very important thing. And if Jaylen is not there, it's a little bit easier to go with what you know. It's like, hey, can you come here? But also it's easy when Derrick White is someone that is the ultimate plug-and-play player, per se. He led the Celtics in plus-minus. It may not be the sexiest because Jaylen Brown is literally the finals MVP, but he also had a career-high year on the Celtics with 5.2 assists. So he's the type of guy that you don't have to worry as a replacement that, it changes the calculus of the nucleus, but still, it's a win-win scenario. Derrick White is going to be in a position to succeed. Jaylen Brown would have been in a great position to succeed as well. As someone who has been in the pool, some of these factors are not so easy to decipher. It's like, I should have gotten the call, but it's like we sort of have this guy right here in our back pocket that can join us right here tomorrow. Sometimes that happens, especially when it is replacement.
Multiple factors here. Zach, what do you think?
First of all, which of us or which NBA player is going to bring back the monocle? Let's make somebody's look be the monocle. Every day you're going to be the monocle guy. Okay, second of all, this comes down to Jalen Brunson, Jaylen Brown, and Derrick White. As for Brunson, we've got Steph, we've got Tyrese Halliburton. I don't think we need another small guard. Jaylen Brown might be a better player straight up than Derrick White. He is the finals MVP. If you want to default to that, that's fine. But I actually think given all the ball-dominant wings Team USA already has, Tatum, Durant, Edwards, and on, I think Derrick White is the right choice. I think his passing, his cutting, his screening, his playmaking, just the pace with which he gets things moving is exactly what Team USA needs. It's why Pop loved him. It's why Steve Kerr loves him. I think he'll fit right in. I think this is a perfectly fine choice.
And Derrick White is on his way, as Tim Bontemps just reported, to Abu Dhabi, where he will join the team.